When I lived in my old house 5 years ago, I'd never felt truly alone. Not a moment was spent in peace. I've lived with an anxiety disorder all my life, so I'd always tried to reassure myself that I wasn't in constant danger. Those shadows in the corner of my room were just my mind playing tricks on me. The noises I heard in the dead of night were just figments of my imagination. There wasn't a camera in my room watching my every move, and reminding myself of these truths helped for a while. That was until the source of my worries started to escalate in their methods to get my attention. I've watched movies that began this way. A young, somewhat attractive college student lives alone. They start suspecting things, seeing things. They put them off, and it comes back to bite them once the source of their suspicion finally shows itself. Suddenly, the safe space they once called home becomes that person's worst nightmare. But that was just fiction. It's not like that'd ever be the case for me. God, how naive I was back then. I started realizing something was totally wrong when I started receiving messages, texts from an unknown number, letters posted through my door, sometimes even through an open window, love messages, someone professing their love to me. I've had people crush on me before. I've had love letters sent to me before. Those love letters just didn't describe how I looked when I was in the shower. The letters were written in black fountain pen, cursive handwriting on light pink-colored paper. It was all vaguely familiar. Lipstick marks littered each page as the words detailed how this secret admirer of mine loved it when I'd practiced playing guitar, the way I looked when I slept, the way my hair looked when I'd just woken up. "Your window isn't a good enough view," I read. "When are you going to let me in?" I stayed wary. I never showed it or told anyone of these letters, but I was terrified. As long as this person wasn't in my house, I was relatively safe. I was planning to move after I finished college anyway. As long as she stayed outside my house, I was fine, I thought. But that thought didn't last long. One night I was taking a shower. I usually shower with music on, and I'd sing in the shower from time to time. Once I'd left, I wrapped the towel around my body and brushed my teeth. My mirror caught my eye. It wasn't fully fogged up, like I expected it would be. I moved towards it, squinting to read what was written in the condensed water vapor, in that same cursive font my admirer's messages were written in. I saw my reflection in the words, "You have a lovely voice, you know." I froze, and I could have sworn I heard my front door close from downstairs. Okay, so I may have been less safe than I initially thought. I arranged to stay at a cousin's house, but he was on vacation for the next week. One more week, and I'd get away from this obsessive maniac. Somehow, she'd found out I wasn't going to be living here much longer. She took things up a notch. "I heard you're leaving me, Ethan. Why? What did I do to you?" I glanced over the letter I'd received that day. Was my phone being tracked? What made me so important to this unnamed stalker? I didn't tell anyone about what she was doing. She'd know I'd be trying to find help. I didn't want her trying to shut me up. For the next 2 days after I'd made those plans, I'd been seeing things much more often. I'd feel something grazing my skin when I walked next to my bed at night. I'd hear whispering and giggling from the dark corners of my room. I could have sworn I'd heard "I love you" one night. The messages on my mirror continued, as did the texts and love letters. "Don't leave me. I love you. I love you so much it hurts. Just let me watch you a little while longer." I tried calling the number I assumed to be hers, and it went to voicemail. Every single time. It wasn't like her to be so shy. My neighbors would ask me if I had a girlfriend. When I answered no, they'd tell me of someone entering and leaving my house when I was away at college, and their pet dogs would bark at my windows at night as if someone was standing there. I did some asking around, and their claims were soon confirmed. Paranoid, I installed security cameras the next day. An alert would be sent to my phone if any motion was detected in my house when I was away. Maybe I'd finally catch a glimpse of this special admirer. 2 days before settling into my cousin's house, I got a notification from my cameras. This was midday, and I was doing some work in the college library. Motion detected in bedroom. I opened my phone and checked the app that was linked to these cameras. The lights in my room were off and the curtains drawn, the only light in the room seeping through where both curtains met. The camera feed showed my room almost perfectly untouched, save for my door now open and my mirror bearing a single sentence written in what looked like lipstick. "Hello, handsome." That would have been the most terrifying part of what my camera was showing, if I hadn't noticed the large bump under the covers of my bed and what poked out of them, resting on my pillows. A head of long brown hair tied in a loose ponytail. So that's what she looks like. And this is what she's up to when I'm away, sleeping in my bed, taking in my scent. I continued to watch, studying the camera feed and this woman's movements. A few minutes of watching later, and she finally rolled over. I studied the visage of the woman in my bed, her face content as she lay there. Her eyes fluttered open for a moment until they suddenly went wide, crazed, staring directly at my camera. She sat up, unblinking, never breaking eye contact with the lens. The camera went offline. I put off going home for the rest of the day, finally coming back around 11 p.m. Another letter, if you could even call it that, was stuck on my bedroom door. It was written on a post-it note. "You didn't tell me you installed cameras, Ethan." I didn't sleep that night. In fact, I don't think I'd slept more than 4 hours a night since the messages started. As I lay in my bed, wide awake, I couldn't ignore the faint scent of perfume that had sunk into my bedsheets. I recognized everything about this woman, her hair, her scent, her handwriting. I just couldn't put a name to that haunting face. That Friday, my cousin had finally returned from vacation. I wasted no time moving my belongings into his house, and I stayed there for the next month. I thought everything was starting to calm down, if you don't count the security camera footage of this admirer in my house, staying the night, eating in my dining room, wearing my clothes. She practically lived there. Once a few days passed, I think she figured out that I wasn't coming back since she started moving on to text messages. Desperate text messages. I'd receive close to 100 a day, and when I'd block her number, she'd always move on to another one. She found all of my social media, but all of the accounts she used to reach me were unnamed. There was no hint to what this girl's name could be. Just over a week later, she found me again. "Ethan, did you write this?" my cousin asked me, referring to a remarkably familiar letter that came through his door that day. How does she manage to follow me everywhere? Skimming the letter, the hair on the back of my neck stood up with every word written in that cursive font. "Ethan, it's me. I don't know what's gotten into you trying to leave me without saying goodbye. It hurts my feelings, you know? Come back. I'm waiting for you. I want to watch you sleep again. I want to watch every move you make. Alone. Nothing will come between us then. As long as you stop running from me, please. Come back, please. I'm begging you." This time, I was less concerned about my own well-being and more about what she would do to my cousin to get to me. I'd gotten to know this girl more over the last couple of weeks. She stops at nothing to get her way. She surely wouldn't stop at my cousin if I didn't comply. It might be my parents next, my sister. You can't be sure what could happen when you're being followed by someone as deranged as the woman who's been obsessing over me this long. The letters kept coming to my cousin's door. To keep his mind at ease, I made sure he didn't know she'd found his address, especially because the content of these letters started to inch further and further into more concerning territory. "It's been so long since I've seen your face, Ethan. Why are you hiding from me? I just want you to notice how I feel about you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Stop playing hard to get." Her words are etched into my memories as I write them now, the image of her face staring blankly still lingering in the back of my mind. On a whim one day, I decided to check the cameras at my house. Opening the app, I expected to see her sleeping in my bed again. What I saw instead had me near paralyzed in fear. The entire house had been trashed. Furniture ripped to shreds, wallpaper torn off, the whole 9 yards. It looked like the aftermath of an explosion in every room. If this is how this girl reacts to being ignored, I'm suddenly questioning how far her obsession goes. A month after I left home, she'd had enough. My cousin was out working late, and I was alone. I was watching a movie when I heard a knock on the door. I was told not to expect anyone, so I was suspicious. The knocking came again, and again. It soon turned into pounding. I felt bound to where I was sitting, unable to move a muscle while the door rattled behind me. Enraged screaming came after that. Screaming turned into crying, which turned into screaming again. It was the pure definition of anger, and I knew exactly who it came from. I took the opportunity to call the police, seeing as this was the best time to get this girl caught and arrested. The pounding at the door continued, and it was clear that she wanted to break the door down completely. Sirens approached minutes later, and it was evident that she'd noticed. With a final broken shriek of betrayal, I heard the footfalls of a frantic woman leaving the driveway, wailing with despair as she did so. It made local news, her face as it was, shown in my security cameras being posted online and around the area to attempt to track her down. It was on that day that I received one final text message from that unknown number. "What have you done?" I blocked the number a final time. Since then, I've moved to another state and got a job elsewhere. A fresh start, you know. Things have calmed down, even with that girl still at large. I've been quite comfortable, and it only took a few weeks to get my sleep back in order. I talked to a therapist about it, and he's helped me deal with the paranoia now that I'm living alone again. Although part of me thinks this isn't over. That thought was soon consolidated when I came home from work the other day. The house was silent. As I entered and closed my door, I saw something sticking through the letterbox. An envelope. Assuming it was just a letter from my doctor, I gave it a read. The contents of the letter had me stopping dead in my tracks. 3 words written in that same pen that was oh so familiar all that time ago. "I've found you.